April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and a local organization is dedicated to protecting children. They're celebrating a big milestone this month. Kids First is turning 30 years old, and here to talk about it, 3 decades of Lane County's nonprofit providing hope and healing for children here in Lane County is Lane County District Attorney Patty Perlow and Development Director Jacqueline Lamons. Thank you both for being here so much.
Well, it's our pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Of course. We're always a pleasure when we can have you two in here and just talk about, something that is so beneficial to the community. And, first and foremost, if you can explain to our viewers a little bit about what Kids First does.
Sure. So Kids First is Lane County's Children's Advocacy Center. So we support children who have been child victims of abuse. And so they come to our center and we provide forensic interviews, medical exams. We also have victim advocates that sort of hold the child and their family's hand through this can be a really challenging and difficult process when folks are going through a really tough time. So we have all of those wraparound support services right at our center. We also have therapy on site, and then we have a partnership that's really wonderful with the DA's office. We have a grand jury on site. So instead of having to go to a courthouse downtown, go through, the metal detectors, that whole piece, kiddos actually come right back to our center and they can testify before the grand jury on site as well. Okay,
and you've helped over 15,000 kids going back to 1994. I mean, what an accomplishment already. But how important is it to consolidate these services down into one so that way kids don't have to go, different places?
Absolutely. So before Kids First, and I know I'm going to pass it to Patty here too, because she was a piece at that time of seeing that transition for us in the community. But before Kids First, you might have to talk to up to maybe 6 different places to talk about what happened. You may be interviewed by a police officer. You may be talked to by DHS Child Welfare. You might be talking to a doctor again about what happened in an emergency room visit. There could be a lot of different pieces having to retell your story. And as we know, having to retell your story a lot of times can be re-traumatizing for a child. Right. So Kids First, we bring all of those services here, and we started in 1994. And I know, Patty, you were going to maybe speak a little bit to how we started.
How it started. Well, I'm embarrassed to say a little bit that I was a prosecutor before Kids First. Okay. And so I have seen the difference between the cases that we put together before Kids First and the cases afterward. And even the transition over the last 30 years, the quality of the work coming out of Kids First. Right. Because police officers were still doing interviews in the beginning. And so just having a place for kids to come in and tell what happened to them just one time instead of repeatedly. I had a child disclose to me when we were doing trial prep, and that is not ideal. So Kids First has made a tremendous difference in the quality of services that we can provide to kids who've been victims of crime.
Right, and without going into too much personal detail of it, I mean, personal experiences, have you seen this be, how much of an impact have you seen this make yourself personally being the Lane County DA?
Well, I can tell you that a lot fewer cases go to trial when your cases are put together without a lot of different interviews happening and people asking different questions and getting different information. And so the quality of the cases is much better in that. And it all started 30 years ago when Doug Harkleroad was DA, and he and a woman named Linda Solon, who was the first executive director, went off to Huntsville, Alabama to see the very first child advocacy center in the country. Came back and said, we need to have one of those.
Well, that's awesome. It's one of first of the 100 in the nation, and it's very, just getting this out there and getting this message out there is very, very important for everyone to know that there is services that kids can feel supported by. Tomorrow, let's speak about this event coming up.
Yeah, so tomorrow we're celebrating 30 years, so we'll have our staff and some friends from the community arriving, and we're just going to celebrate the hope and healing provided in Lane County. And I think it also goes with saying, I know we were talking about this a few minutes ago, but we wish that our services, of course, didn't have to exist, right? But we are thankful that they're in Lane County, because when something terrible does happen, we are there to be that part of that first response team to child abuse. So 30 years to helping kids get the resources they need to heal.
And coinciding with Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Yes.
Absolutely, yes. It's very important to bring, again, this topic into the mainstream, because a lot of times it just goes unspoken.
That is true.
But tomorrow's event, you'll be there along with the Lane County Sheriff. So what else can anyone expect to come kind of from this event?
Yeah, well, we're going to be doing some pinwheel planting, and then, of course, we'll be sharing throughout the month too child abuse prevention tips, which are great to get out there. But really, just it's really a celebration at this time. We figured April seemed like a really appropriate time to talk about this, since it's Child Abuse Prevention Month, and we're wearing our blue today. We saw you had blue on today too.
Yes, that was my next question. I was about to ask blue. Why the color blue? But you just explained it right there. It's the color. How did they? Do you know how they got to that color? I just said.
I do.
Question.
Yeah. I can't remember the location, but essentially it was for awareness to signify for like bruises in blue, and so it was like let's stand in solidarity for kids, and so that's how the blue ribbon began, and then kind of caught on. So.
And then the pinwheel planting.
And then the pinwheel planting. Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, how can the community? I think that's the biggest question here too. How can the community help with Kids First?
Absolutely. So we have, of course, events throughout the year. So please, you can always visit our website. That's at kidsfirstcenter.net with information on like Winetasia. We have Patty's actually on that committee too.
Okay.
It's a very fun event. So those, of course, are always a great way for businesses to get involved, and we need volunteers. Other things to do, though, is like I mentioned, like tips earlier, just really being aware and supportive for kids. One of the things too that we talk about a lot is giving kids power, giving them their power back. And so when it comes to like body safety or things like that, just really listening to kids instead of maybe forcing hugs or things like that.
Right.
Let's talk to kids about their own body autonomy and how, maybe you can do a hug or a wave goodbye, or giving kids those options so that they're in control. So we talk a lot about child abuse prevention and safety too, so that we'd love to not see so many kids coming to Kids First and needing our services.
Right. And then if we can pull that lower up one more time, just for information wise, where can people go if they want more information? We've got the website pulled up right here as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So kidsfirstcenter.net/events on our website. And then you can always contact me too. There's a contact form on our website. So if you ever have questions about whether it's events, or if you're just like throughout the year, I might want some volunteer hours, I'd like to help out, you're always welcome to reach out on there. I get those directly to my email, so I always love seeing inquiries. And very randomly, we do need volunteers from time to time too for things that just come up that we need extra hands. We did Easter egg stuffing last week for an event.
Okay.
And Umpqua Bank was so gracious. They sent some people very last minute to help us get those last, 500 eggs stuffed. So we're always looking for support.
Well, and as the other thing is, as a nonprofit, we can always use new donors to the center to help provide these services.
Perfect. Well, there you have it, celebrating 30 years. It's impressive. So congratulations on 30 years of celebrating Oregon's Kids First. It's quite an accomplishment to be in business at all, but a nonprofit to sustain for 30 years and provide these crucial services. So thank you. I want to thank you personally for doing this. You can find more out about Kids First on their website. It's kidsfirstcenter.net. You saw that we had it pulled up on the lower, but let's go ahead and check in with our storm tracker 9 meteorologist, Karen Landfield, to see what's coming up in your forecast.